Kate finally came home on Friday night, although it had felt like months to Lexi. A taxi dropped her off and she hurried eagerly into the house. Lexi and Bella heard the car door slam and they jumped off the sofa to greet Kate with tight hugs. Bella had to be persuaded to let go of Kate's knees. "Bella," said Kate, "let go. I need those knees to walk into the door," she laughed, and the girls grinned. Mummy was home and everything was normal again. Lexi breathed a sigh of relief as she could go back to her normal life. So she returned to watching the TV with Bubba, whilst Kate carried Bella into the kitchen where Duncan dried his dish-soapy hands. However, her peace did not last long when the sound of loud talking and laughing from the kitchen permeated even the raucous squeal of her frantic cartoons. Lexi groaned. All that noise. She couldn't hear the TV. Lexi turned up the volume and sat back down, sucking on her finger. She went to bed contentedly that night, and with little fuss for a change. And she slept soundly until, at some dark, late hour, noise from the kitchen woke her up. Her parents were laughing and squeaking. There was the sound of glasses tinkling, and she thought she even heard Grandma on the Skype. Lexi lay back, drowsily listening to happy voices, and she smiled despite herself. Maybe everything was going to be normal again. She yawned and fell back to sleep. The next day, Lexi climbed the big willow tree at the bottom of the garden with Olivia and Georgie when Kate called from the house. "Lexi, Olivia and Georgie have to go home now." "No!" Lexi shouted and carried on climbing. If her parents were going to go back to normal, then Lexi was going back to normal too. "Lexi," her mother called, now walking into the garden. "Daddy and I have to talk to you." "I'm coming, Mummy," called Bella, as she brushed off the sand from the sandpit where she played and ran towards her. Kate picked her up. "Oh, she's so sweet," said Olivia. "No, she's not, Olivia. She's a pain. I hate having a sister." Lexi had already pushed all the sadness of the last week out of her mind. "My brothers are even worse," said Georgie. But they all jumped down together. The two girls picked up their bikes and rode off. "See you tomorrow, Lexi," they both called. "Bye," she waved, and then turned and scowled at Kate. "Why did you make them leave? It's not dinner time." "Daddy and I need to talk to both of you," Kate replied, and ushered Lexi into the house. Duncan was sat at the kitchen table, and Lexi sat down beside him. He still hadn't been back in the shed this weekend, but he still looked much happier than before. "Okay," he began. "I have something important to say, and I want you girls to really listen, okay?" Lexi nodded, but put a finger in her mouth and began to chew. This was serious again. Serious was never good. "Lexi, Bella, your mum has a new job," he said. Lexi grunted, then rolled her eyes. She jumped off her seat and walked to the fridge. She yanked it open and looked for fizzy juice. This wasn't interesting news. Jobs were boring. "At the bank, like you, Daddy?" Bella asked. Duncan cleared his throat. "Mum's new job is not in Edinburgh." Lexi narrowed her eyes slightly at this. "What? Well, where is it then?" "A long way away," he replied. "Well, how will she get there?" "Well," he began. "Will she take the train like Georgie's mum does every day?" Duncan took a deeper breath. "Mummy got a job in a hospital." He paused. "In Brisbane." He paused again. "In Australia." Lexi lifted the glass of juice to her mouth, but paused and peered at him over the rim. She thought he might be joking and would begin to laugh. He was always telling them funny, silly jokes. This wasn't the same, though. This definitely wasn't funny. She watched as he just smiled at her mother in a strange way. They both looked very happy, happier than they had for a long time. Lexi folded her arms. She frowned. So, are we moving to Australia? She asked in a small, faltering voice. Yes, we are, Duncan said gently. Lexi thought hard for a few moments more, took another sip of juice as the realization creeped through her mind. Then both fear and anger began to bubble in the bottom of her stomach. So, I have to leave school? And Scotland? And all my friends and Granny and Gramps and Uncle Sal and Uncle Ted and Auntie B? As she spoke, Lexi's voice became a squeak. Yes, said Kate, but we will live near Daddy's brother, Uncle Rory, and your cousin Jude. Remember Uncle Rory? I don't know Cousin Jude, and I don't care about Uncle Rory. I don't want to go. We know you might miss your friends, Lexi, but, well, would I ever come back? Well, we don't know, but probably. Well, why did you get a job so far away? It's not fair. Look, there are no jobs for Mum here, so... But my school has a swimming pool and a pony club and all my friends and the best teachers. I don't want to go to another stupid, smelly school. I won't go, she shouted and ran upstairs. Lexi threw herself on her bed and started to cry. Australia was so far away. She wouldn't see her friends again. They'd forget her and then she'd be all alone. She'd never met her cousin Jude and could barely remember her Uncle Rory. She sniffed. It was all too much. Her mind raced with all the questions she had. What was it like in Australia? Would she ever come back and ever see Granny and Gramps again? Was it really as hot as it seemed on the TV? Were there really kangaroos? And why were they going so far away? She began to cry again. The next thing she knew, Lexi woke up in bed. It was early in the morning and she must have cried herself to sleep. She lay there for a while and thought about what her parents told her, and her stomach churned once more. Even though she'd had no dinner the night before, Lexi still wasn't hungry. Australia. Her Uncle Rory and Aunt Jo left Edinburgh years ago and never came back. Lexi barely remembered them, and Jude was born there, so they had never ever met. She lay still, thinking for a long time. If Lexi left, everyone here would forget her too, and the thought tore at Lexi's heart as more tears trickled down her cheeks. Eventually, she heard a door open, and then she heard Bella laughing in the other room as Mummy played a game with her and Teddy. Lexi threw Bubba across the room as her fears grew. She was angry, with everything and with everyone. She was angry with Daddy for not having a job. She was angry with Mummy for getting a job so far away. And she was angry with Bella just because she was. How could Bella be happy at a time like this?